Hello everyone and welcome to another MAGA Cope stream. How's everyone doing? I was planning on taking today off, however, Trump dropped the most ridiculous interview he's possibly ever done. So maybe we need to actually take a look at that. So I'm also planning on going to a lake on Saturday, so that'll probably be my day off instead of the first of the month like usual. How's it going? Hope everyone's doing well. H-Baird with 40-bit says, remember when Howard Dean dropped out of the primary because he yelled weird? Good times. I miss when that happened. I miss when standards were stricter. Amber Pretzels, thanks for 28 months. And I think that catches us up. So thank you everyone for coming and watching the stream today. I appreciate it. Sorry again for the calls to action, but capitalism. So if you're on YouTube, do me a favor, like the stream. I also always appreciate bits, super chats, memberships, subscriptions. All these things go to support the stream. Couldn't do it without them. So I appreciate anything. If you enjoy watching the stream, maybe sometime consider donating, you know, to keep this whole shebang going. Halloween Town, thanks for a 3-stream streak, says, July sure has been a month. Well, now it's August, so fear not. July can't hurt you any longer. Not only non-binary. Hold on, what did you say? Have I seen the riots in the UK? It resulted in a funny video? That's an interesting way to say that. Well, no, I haven't seen it, though. I know, Profane Priestess. Surprising. Trump did something so silly, I feel the need to cover it, though. Before we actually get into the Trump thing, though, I have some chud hors d'oeuvres, as per usual. I like to get some of these clips out there, because it just is really weird watching some of the things these people say. So I thought we'd do some of those while people kind of, you know, come into the stream. I forgot to tweet and at people about this. Holy crap, I knew I forgot something. And we have 78 people total without even me adding about it, so that's not too bad. Give me 1 second to tweet about this and everything, and then we will be good. Let me get the link from Twitch. I knew I forgot something. Hosa died? I didn't see this. At people. 7 Ty says, Hannah, also seeing lots of cope for MAGAs because Kamala is either tied or slightly ahead of Trump in the polls, and the VP pick and DNC haven't even happened yet. Suddenly polls are fake again. Funny how that works, huh? Give me 1 sec. See, this is why you don't do things on the first of the month. I'm all over the place. At people on Discord, and we will be good. We fit. Thank you for bearing with me while I did that. Now we can get into it. Alright, so let's start with this. This is a QAnon person, so a little bit conspiracy, but still nonetheless, they're a Trump supporter, so I thought this little rant might be fun.
Church, you think that was a photo op? They were looking to take out our president of the Capitol of the United States of America.
They ain't taking him out.
He knows what's up. It's evil. What do you think, we're like those communists? We cower down to evil and bend? No, my president walked out there, went in front of the church, and held the Holy Bible in front of that American church. Are you kidding me? We will not cower down to evil. We're Americans.
Q is everybody. We don't know who particularly Q is. Q is a movement, okay? It says think for yourself. It doesn't tell you to follow one leader. You can think about what you want.
Q is the leader. Your shirt says where we go one, we go all. What do you mean, independent thinker?
With Q. But I follow the facts and I follow information, and I think for myself and as American, okay? Nobody's gonna tell me how to think. I'll take the facts in.
As he wears a shirt with the symbol of the person who tells him what to think? Okay.
For myself, and I'll make my own decision. And I see it as clear as day. I've been posting on Facebook for 4 to 5 years about this. If Hillary
Ooh, Good credentials.
Hillary Clinton would have won, the world would have been over. It was game, set, match for America. She was their last step. She wasn't supposed to lose. We're taking back our country, and it's going to be biblical.
That's very normal. Thanks for that. Former advisor to Donald Trump, Sebastian Gorka, saying some racist shit. So let's take a look. Let me change the perspective real quick so this is more in frame.
Whose only disaster, whose only qualification was having a vagina and the right skin color. She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored, therefore she's got to be good.
He used the word colored in 2024 to describe a person. Jesus Christ. By the way, here's some links. I should send you guys these links in case you need to send these to anyone. Here you go. There's a link to that clip. Oof.
I promised you guys an action plan on how to do it. And we spent months calculating and creating, meeting with experts, something that we felt like could take Christians and put them in a place of influence. Just imagine, it's election night. Chaos is happening. The polls are closing. They go and the volunteers are getting kicked out. But what if we had Christians across America in swing states like Wisconsin that were actually the ones counting the votes?
If you've never considered volunteering at your local polling places, especially if you're in swing states, this might be the year to do so, because it seems like there's a coordinated effort by far-right individuals in order to get far-right people staffing all of the election polling places that they can, especially in swing states. So I would suggest that you and some friends get together and volunteer, because, oh boy, this ain't gonna be good.
And making sure it was happening. So, I want to introduce you to our program called Fight the Fraud, How to Become an Election Worker in 4 Easy Steps. Now, this program right here, it takes 15 minutes. And it doesn't matter if you struggle with technology or if you're like absolutely awesome at it. It's super easy to do. And here's the cool thing about it.
Kind of seems like if you're bad with technology, you maybe shouldn't volunteer to be a poll worker because you're going to have to work with a computer to look up people's voter registrations and stuff, but whatever.
A lot of people don't realize this, but in Wisconsin, you can get paid to be an election worker. So listen, are you guys ready to make a difference? Are you guys ready to get off the sidelines and make history this November? All right, everybody get your phone ready. I see some are jumping the gun, but look, I've got a QR code for you right here.
Jesus Christ. So that's fun. And by fun, I mean horrifying. This is in regard to the new polls that show Kamala Harris ahead. Doesn't matter. Go vote.
When they
Marcel Paul, thanks for a 25 stream streak, says even Q himself thinks his prank is gone too far, and then it's an image of John Delancey as Q from Star Trek The Next Generation.
report that Kamala Harris is now dead heat with President Trump, that's a bunch of baloney, right?
It is the most massive.
When Trump's ahead, the polls are real. When Trump's tied or behind, the polls are rigged. Just like meme stock people, huh? When the stock is up, it's price finding. When the stock is down, it's crime. JP Black, thanks for 32 months, says, holy crap, that interview was completely cringe. We need to all vote for Kamala. Agreed.
Lie. For people to understand, why are they doing this? They're still planning on stealing. They think they can steal the election.
They're already setting up, obviously. I know we all know they're going to do this. They still deny the results of the previous election, the previous two, including midterms, because they were upset they didn't get the red wave they were promised. So they're already teeing up for election denying once again this year. I know we're not surprised, but, you know, prepare for that.
And so the only way people will accept it is if
they're like the kid in like elementary school on the playground where you'd be playing a game and they'd start making up new rules when they lost, like you'd tag them or whatever, and they're like, no, I have a force field, and you're like, well, that's not in the rules. They're like, but I have one. I have a force field. No take backs. Like, that's not how this works. What are you doing? Pathetic.
They show polls. See, this is just what the polls show. So that is how, I don't know if people understand, this is the way. We haven't had a real election, a real presidential election in our nation in over 50 years. They have not. This, the proof is kind of.
Why would they even want to go vote then? It's the double think that gets me. It'd be one thing if they were like, it's all a fraud, so don't even bother voting. But they tell people to still go vote because they desperately need people to vote, because they know that the election isn't rigged and they need the votes, but they want to rhetorically act as though their votes are worthless. It's so frustrating listening to people argue with absolutely no standards or care for whether or not what they're saying connects to the real world at all. It's insanity. It's like the other people have said this before. It's like playing chess with a pigeon and you're trying to play by the rules, but they just poop all over the board and act like they win. It's frustrating.
Kind of out there, but it'll be out there more. We have not had unfraudulent elections forever, practically. And so, but the way they do it, in order for the people not to catch on, they have to push polls. The poll pushing is first stage and the most important stage of the steal, because they can just say, well, all the steal shows, and they don't have to call it steal, is what our polls have been showing. And so this is part of the strategy.
Just ridiculous. It's so blatant. It's so blatant. Hydrate, by the way. That's why I was drinking water. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Trump interview. It's a shit show, so guess get ready for that. This is an interview, and he did it with the National Association of Black Journalists. So the people in this room are journalists who are also black. They don't take any of Trump's bullshit, and they constantly laugh at him, which is pretty nice. So let's enjoy it as he absolutely eats shit. By the way, this interview is supposed to go for an hour. Trump did so badly that his aides pulled him out halfway through, so it's only about a 36-minute interview because they realized that it was making him look terrible. So I guess let's go ahead and take a look after I read this chat from Unstable Deadbeat with 100 bits. It says, hey Hannah, I was late to the stream, so apologize if this already came up, but was wondering if you've seen the ad from Won't Pack demonstrating the weirdness of conservative positions. I have. I like it. It's over the top, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Hear me? Here we go. Test, test, test. Good afternoon, NABJ, and welcome to a conversation with former President Donald Trump. This discussion continues a decade.
Oops, actually, I gotta... There we go.
Decades-long tradition during election years of inviting journalists to discuss the policies and their impact with the candidates who are running for president, and the impact of those policies, especially in Black communities. Former Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton have attended the NABJ conventions either as presidents or as presidential candidates in past.
Nemesaur, thank you for gifting 10 Tier 1 subs to the community and kicking off a hype train. Very generous of you. 8% to level 4. Bittergrin says, 1, who let him do this? 2, who took 36 minutes to realize he was fucking it up? On some level, they're probably afraid to tell him that because he seems like the kind of person that doesn't want to hear he's not wearing clothes. Emperor's new clothes type thing, you know what I mean? Like, I imagine he surrounds himself with yes men, and he doesn't like when he's told he's fucking up because it makes him feel bad because then he's culpable for his own actions, and I can't imagine that makes him feel comfortable based on Donald Trump's personality. So I think for a while he just didn't want to do it because no one wanted to be the person to have to tell him, you're doing so bad, we need to throw in the towel on this one, you're digging a hole, and we can't dig you out at this point. Overthought, thanks for gifting a sub. Procigom, thanks for 38 months at Tier 3. Generous. So generous. Thank you. Getting us over level 4.
Last years. NABJ is currently in conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris's team to schedule a Q&A either in person or virtually in September. As journalists, we use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in—
Oh god, did they change the Twitch app? I haven't opened it. I've only seen it on desktop recently. That's funny. 30% to level 5 on a hype train.
real time. You can access that feed on social media.
He didn't want to go out for over an hour after it was supposed to start because they were going to live fact check him. Yeah, he doesn't like that because he lies constantly. It's his whole strategy.
Using the hashtag NABJ fact
Oh, it's fine, Italian Shakespeare. It was a typo. I didn't assume you were doing it intentionally.
check. Again, the hashtag is NABJ fact check. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time, so let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
The amount he gets laughed at in this, by the way, is painful, so if you feel secondhand embarrassment, you can drop that because it's Donald Trump and he doesn't deserve your sympathy.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time.
About 34 minutes.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
This is the first time in forever I've seen a journalist actually press Donald Trump on the audacity of some of the claims he's made. And it's incredible to see it actually happen. Every journalist who doesn't do this but gets an opportunity to speak with Donald Trump should be ashamed of themselves, genuinely, because this is what you're supposed to do. That's the entire point of journalism. A big part of it is speaking truth to power and trying to hold people accountable for what they're doing, and I just don't see that often. So good for her, because holy shit, this must have been nerve-wracking. Let's see, 30% to level 5 on the hype train, and Will Kale, thanks for a 65 stream streak. Says, I must be a sadist. This is my 3rd time watching this dumpster fire of an interview. His reaction is incredible. He's immediately salty that he's actually being asked difficult questions because he's a little baby.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner, a first question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And
the thing is, I don't think Donald Trump understands that the people in the crowd are laughing at him and not with him. And that's the one thing that makes me feel bad. Because I think he thinks, similar to his rallies, they're like cheering and laughing with him, when in reality, they're laughing at how ridiculous his statements are and how predictable he is in what he says. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I would like him to feel a little bit of shame for once in his life. Hummel Homestead says, this was so satisfying after hearing him talk to the ass kissers on Fox. And Lennon Cat says, this is the meanest anyone has ever asked me a question. Well, just wait. There'll be more. H-Beard says, worst Godfather impression ever. Paradona says, nice to see journalists ask these questions that aren't filtered through an editor. And Overthought says, in the words of John Goodman to another Donnie, you're out of your element. Big Lebowski.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. Including
like the 2 people back there clapping. There's 2 people trying to be like, no, I support you.
With Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. Done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And
why would you ask me questions as a journalist? When I go on Fox, they just kiss my ass and tell me what a good job I'm doing.
So a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You
what?
Invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do.
They literally said she was going to be there in September. I would imagine what happened is he was informed she would be there. She was going to also attend at a later date, but his, like, old man brain was like, oh, Kamala's going to be here, but he mispronounced it because he's a rude asshole.
Do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric.
Wow.
It's a nasty question. Okay, answer it. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fede Kagami says it's not just Trump. His supporters are coping, thinking the crowd is laughing with him, too. Oh, Lord. Griffin Doggo with the 3-stream streak says, look, I'm surprised he even knows her name.
I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start
the audacity of this dumb asshole.
off a question and answer period, especially.
Annie Kai says, by the way, they were half an hour late because he didn't want them to fact check him and wouldn't let them start. Yeah, someone else said that.
When you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me a
definition then. Would you give me a definition?
That is literally the word. Literally what it means. Did you know that? Did you know that, former president of the United States? The word you use all the time? Do you know what the letters mean? Do you know what the thing you're saying is? Moira Soma says, American TV journalists are such a joke overall. They only give softball questions and don't press the people in power like they should. It's fun to see British journalists tear American politicians apart when they get the opportunity. No, not Piers Morgan. Yeah, I know, you said journalists. He isn't included. No, but it's like access journalism, you know? Outlets are afraid of pushing candidates or politicians because if they do, then they think they're not going to get access to them in the future. But the problem is, it's like a prisoner's dilemma. All of these organizations need to collectively get together and say, we're not playing this fucking game. They need access to our outlets, not the other way around. We need to stop letting them push us around because that's the opposite of how this is supposed to work.
Definition of that? Give me a definition of that.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now
she happened to turn black. No. Does Donald Trump not know what being biracial is? Or is he being obtuse? I genuinely can't tell. Because Republicans are being incredibly, like, back and forth on this. They're calling her a DEI candidate because she's black. They have said this. I've heard them say this. They weren't saying it because they viewed her as someone of Indian American heritage. I've literally heard them say because she's black, and now they're saying she's not black because she's biracial, which I know they did with Obama too sometimes. But it's even weirder here somehow. Kagami says the cope is also that the Civil Rights Act is harmful to black people and that LBJ was a racist, which he was, but he still did way more for black people than Trump could dream. Wow, imagine thinking the Civil Rights Act's a bad thing. Oh boy. Moira Soma says, I think he mixes her up with Nikki Haley. Oh boy. Messy Jaden says it's truly horrifically hilarious. Republicans seem to not know you can be more than one thing. They can only view biracial people as one race at a time. It's wild. Amber Pretzels says, this is cringe. I think my liver went into overtime. It's funny too, because like white people do this shit all the time in America. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm half Irish and half German or some shit. Like, do you not, like, what don't you get?
She wants to be known as black.
Moira Soma, thanks for gifting a sub.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously
Yeah, she went to a historically black college.
doesn't.
And, you know, she is biracial. Like, just definitionally, factually, she is black.
Because she was Indian.
Oh, Moira Soma, thanks for gifting another sub.
And all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you
I
believe
think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you
Did I notice what he just said? What about it?
believe that
That he just said she turned black?
Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really
have
don't know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we are divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And
Oh, was there maybe I didn't notice the pause. Let me go back.
Fantastic person who just interviewed me at length.
Question, sir. Do you believe
Became a black person.
Just to be clear,
And then all of a sudden
okay.
she made a turn and she became a black person.
just to be clear,
Yeah, that's a weird pause.
sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think
that she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really
have
don't
said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty.
He's such a fucking coward. Maybe. She's asking a direct question about statements you have made. You flip-flopping fucking coward. Stand by one thing you've said in your entire life. Who votes for this asshole? He's pathetic.
I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that
well, you
interview.
told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're
Notice how he immediately goes to compliment a person in the room who he thinks will treat him better because he thinks being held to account for the words he said is treating him badly. It isn't, but he's never faced consequences in his life, so he feels like if someone's not kissing his ass, it's like they're his enemy. He's genuinely does not have a frame of reference of a normal human being. He's like Homelander from the fucking Boys. If someone isn't a sycophant, he just thinks they're evil and don't deserve to live. Like, it's so fucking weird. Benekagami says, I think it's more that they are trying to separate her from the black communities to try to prevent black solidarity. Oh, I understand what their strategy is. It's stupid, though. They're flailing and doing Schrodinger's argument. The argument will be whatever it needs to be to win. When something finally sticks, that'll be the argument. I know, but nothing is sticking and it's going badly.
you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we are divided along the lines of race,
Seven Ty says even Harris Faulkner was gasping and going, "Oh my goodness," during this interview, and then she turned and defended him afterward. Profane Priestess says, "You can be both. People have two parents and those ancestries can be different. If that's the case, both of those backgrounds are valid. Hell, I've known mixed people with one white parent, a black parent, and grandparents who are of some other background or some other culture. Ancestry is a mess, and a lot of the time people aren't just one thing. Does he genuinely not get that? I know he's dumb, but is he that dumb? I don't know. I think he's being obtuse."
Along the lines of gender.
I haven't seen the new season of The Boys.
And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell
Again, he's speaking at the National Association of Black Journalists, so saying a lot of the journalists in this room are black is kind of a redundant thing to say. Lennon Cat says, "My favorite part is that this attempt to divide her from the black community will likely backfire so hard it'll rally the community around her, since black people often have to fight to defend their identity and culture from the white majority, especially Republicans." I can't speak to any of that. I'm super white. I don't know. But I hope so.
I have great respect for. A lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
He's so dumb. A black job is anybody that has a job. A black job. They're taking the black jobs. Come on, man.
And
Mr. President,
they're
can
taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions.
Let me translate that from racist white grandpa. He's trying to say he thinks black people take really low, unskilled jobs, the kind of jobs that tend to be given to undocumented people because they don't have recourse, because they can't go to the police. So he's saying he thinks black people are incompetent and only do unskilled, low-paying labor. That is what he is trying to say. He's a racist piece of shit. Amber Pretzel says, "Remember, people will vote for this man. Please get out there and vote against him because he's so fucking stupid." Indeed. Indeed.
The people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So
she was never at the border. Okay, maybe she was at a little bit of the border, but not the right part of the border.
She was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs. And frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jail.
I've heard the theory that people think he keeps saying this because he's heard the phrase seeking asylum, and he literally thinks seeking asylum means a mental asylum. And I can't stop thinking about that. I really hope that's not true. But, like, he keeps saying it, and, I'm kind of wondering, does Donald Trump think that seeking asylum has something to do with mental asylums? Because, it doesn't. It's like seeking sanctuary. It has nothing to do with mental anything. Rick M, thanks for 14 months, much appreciated. And Bumble Homestead with 100 bits says, well, he thought stealth planes were invisible, so maybe. He also asked if we could nuke a hurricane, so,
Jails, they're gang members in other countries.
Yeah, and he seems to think Hannibal Lecter's real.
Other countries are setting.
Amber Pretzel says, no, Donnie boy, unions are being damaged because rich fuckwits like you want to destroy them outright because you need an ever-increasing profit while grinding your workers into finer powder than we already are.
Loose their prisoners, they're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're...
I literally want, like, someone needs to ask him specifically about this. Like, President Trump, what do you think seeking asylum means? I just want to hear what he thinks that means.
Taking their...
Puka, thanks for 44 months, says holy poop balls, 44 months. Very eloquent. Thanks for 44 months.
Bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President?
I like that he says going to be a disaster because currently the crime rate is down. So he can't be like, I mean, he lies all the time about it, but he'll be like, crime is crazy. Crime is actually low, relatively speaking. It's lowered. It's just propaganda. And people in the suburbs freak out because they listen to Fox News that's constantly telling them the sky is falling even though nothing is happening. Italian Shakespeare, thanks for a 3-stream streak, says you look great in purple. I look great in anything. Lennon Cat says, completely unrelated, but on stealth planes, when the US designed stealth planes and released photos of the planes, they actually doctored the photos. Another country once tried to copy the design from the photos, and it makes the stealth plane even louder on radar. That's pretty funny. Donald voice. They're seeking sanctuary. They're running into our churches and ringing the bells at all hours. That was more JFK. That was a weird Trump JFK mix. I don't know what that was about. The best I could do.
I want to get into how you address some of the issues.
Ich ihn bei ein Hunchback.
With black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
Sure.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a...
Benegami says, fun fact, Donald, drug dealers actually just buy citizenship from our government and come in legally.
52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms, when you look statistically. Yeah. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So,
let me guess, he's going to say he wants to do a bunch of tariffs that he's going to claim are going to bring jobs back to the United States, when in reality, no, that's not what's going to happen. Tariffs are just going to make things even more expensive. Because that's what happened when you apply tariffs to shit. We know this. It's demonstrably happened every time you do tariffs.
First of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, you know, this
such a fucking baby.
Woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word.
That is cover for having not a good answer for this?
Very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our...
Donald Trump cares very deeply for the middle class.
Working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you...
Did I notice his accordion hands are back? Did they go anywhere? He always kind of does this thing.
Just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses.
I mean, that's what happens when the Fed increases rates, yes?
They no longer have the American dream.
Like, increasing rates is what you do to try and slow inflation. Does he not know that? Does he not know that if you don't put the rates up, inflation can continue unabated and cause even bigger problems? Oh my god. He doesn't understand. Oh god. He was the president. Oh god.
Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore.
Inflation's going very badly. We need lower interest rates. Oh god.
They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of
He's gonna appoint his son as the chairman of the Fed.
Cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's...
He said nothing during this. He's just rambling buzzwords.
Destroying the black community probably as much
So
or
what do
more
you do?
than any...
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring...
Okay, how? You can't... This is like when Ben Shapiro says, we should make illegal things illegal. Like, okay, you want the price lower. Great. Imagine you are the president. Shouldn't be hard for you. You were once. What do you do to do the thing you want done? It's not a skill to point out a thing you want. It's a skill to know how to get it. How do you not understand this? This is like a lifetime of a person who's never actually had to do anything but just tells people, go buy that building, get me a Diet Coke, I want this thing, and then people do it for him. It's like he doesn't understand that there's more to doing something than telling people to do it. You need a way to do it. Benekagami says, is it any wonder this man broke Obama's economy? H. Baird says he'll figure out it during his executive time.
Bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw.
Oh, is he going to complain? Is he going to complain that Biden's not the nominee?
And he was losing very badly in the polls, and then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history. And his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, you know, let's keep going, and maybe something happens the other way.
He's so salty! Is he seriously still bitching about this? So someone was not going to win and was unpopular, and even Democrats were like, hey, you should probably drop out. And then he does the thing that most people agreed he should do, and you're mad about it? Oh my god! It's so blatant!
They said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight, a prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing well. You say, let's bring in another fighter. So
All right, ding ding, round 2, Donald, go! You can be mad about it, but it's what's happening. So get over it. Whiny bitch baby.
The whole campaign was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately, it's the same because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders,
No, they don't. There isn't there are no mainstream politicians at the federal level that are in favor of open borders. There just aren't. Like, regardless of you or I's opinion on this, there are not mainstream Democrats with that view. Period. Certainly not Kamala Harris. So stop lying. You actively helped block funds for the border so you could keep using it as a wedge issue. So shut the fuck up. Dirty, thanks for a 3-stream streak, says GOP logic, demand Biden quits, then when he quits, complain about him not staying. Hiradona says he's like Brick Top over changing fighters.
unbelievable open border.
I didn't get that.
There's horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars.
As you say, gasoline. Gasoline in cars.
They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is...
Benny Kagami says, Trump, a strong person. A winner would say, I crushed Biden so badly he ran away. He quit. Not they think Biden's lackey is going to do better. The Democrats are idiots. He could play it that way, but he can't because he knows that this is worse for him. And he can't even hide it strategically, so he's got to bitch about it. What you said is rhetorically what he should have done. He could absolutely have played this so much better and been like, look, I already beat him. I'm going to beat the second one. But he immediately couldn't do it. His ego is so bruised and so concerned that he had to whine, and it makes him look weak. Moira Soma says the Republican Party doesn't have any policies. They have no policies other than deregulation, and people vote for this? Unfortunately.
Is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years, and they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58, whatever it may be.
Telling a room full of journalists that fact-checking is illegitimate is probably not a good message for the audience. Also, it's a stupid thing to say, so...
They don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr. President, can I ask you another question that is also impacting Black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder.
Yeah, that video, I don't know if you saw that video. I can't play it on stream because it's a murder. But, yeah, that was a bad one. They're all bad, but that was a particularly, like, ridiculous one. When the cop gets, like, charged immediately, you know that's how bad it is.
You said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah. Well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again, why would
they're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much
He was
different
moved 5 times. That doesn't surprise me. Fucking monsters.
cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something.
Why in the world are you bringing up respect for police officers in a situation where we're literally talking about a police officer murdering someone, and your first response is, well, they should be respected. We should respect them. Jesus Christ.
Thing that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So
talks like a little baby.
Can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if
he said the thing,
a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if
okay, an innocent mistake that ends in murder is by definition not an innocent mistake. Like, period? Like, what do you think an innocent mistake is? If a person is dead because of your innocent mistake, that's not an innocent mistake. At minimum, that's manslaughter? That's negligent manslaughter. Minimum? What a deranged person.
If somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to...
Despite being in many movies, he's absolutely a terrible actor. He can't even pretend not to have contempt for the woman on stage with him. It's called playing the audience, Donald. Oh yeah, I've shown the clip before of him from the deleted scene from Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. He's terrible.
I want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous, and you know they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. you know, I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case.
He didn't win. Cannon basically rigged shit for him, and it's being appealed.
And I just won it. Now,
that selection was ridiculous.
Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents, and they ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something?
That is not what happened.
He's incompetent and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Again, he's salty about Biden. Jesus Christ, dude, you're not even running against him.
But they released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing
Does he not know that that decision is being appealed?
Publicity on it, George.
And it has a pretty good chance? Because I genuinely don't know if he knows that.
Sir, I'd love to move over on to
I
different
didn't
topics
notice you
now.
do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This
case.
is an attack on a political opponent. I have another
there it is.
Where
Sir,
I have
if you
a
don't mind, I'd
hostile
love
judge.
to. We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different
No,
topics.
excuse
if
you.
we
You're the
can.
one that held me up at 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator J.D. Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate, and do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family-oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people.
He
with
literally
families.
said it. What do you mean he doesn't? She quoted him at you. She quoted him. God, he just ignores reality. It's so frustrating. Anyone who's ever lived with a fucking narcissist, oh my god. Spot on. Fenekagami says, has anyone noticed how none of the conservatives are talking about Hunter Biden anymore? Suspicious. They're just sad they don't have a reason to share his dick pics with each other anymore.
I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just...
Humble Homestead says, I believe one of the quickest ways to increase birth rates is to increase minimum wage, but they're not going to do that shit, huh? Yeah, if you increased people's wages and they had better quality of life and weren't so concerned about their next paycheck and bills and rent, yeah, people would have more kids, probably. Not everyone. Plenty of people don't want kids, like myself, and that's fine. But there are absolutely people who do want kids but don't have them because of financial situations, and they're being responsible by not having kids at a time when they can't afford them. It's so funny, too, because Republicans for years have been complaining about, like, quote-unquote welfare queen, just racist tropes, and being like, oh, these people on welfare having kids they can't afford, and then people aren't having kids because they can't afford them, and now they're bitching about it? They just can't pick a lane. They just want to be mad and have no solutions for any problem. It's an entire political party fueled by their own anxieties and, like, mental illnesses. It's wild. H-Baird says, remember when Fox News spent a week doing a fake trial of Hunter Biden? Pepperidge Farm remembers. I don't remember that. That's hilarious.
Talking about families.
Sorry, Fenekagami. Fenekagami says, because cops are the state-paid henchmen of rich assholes like him, they're his minions, so that's why they should be respected. Reminder that this man once said to his own nephew, disabled people should just Roblox. Oh, I didn't hear that one. Yikes.
Here. He also says that people that don't have children should get less votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Is that your campaign
I think
position?
I'm speaking for him, too. He strongly believes in family, but I know people with great families.
Just talks past the question completely.
I know people with not great families, that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But
that's not what he said. He said people without kids should have fewer votes.
Doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been...
He still doesn't get it either. He thinks it's about people not necessarily getting married. Like, people get together and just don't want kids sometimes. I'm gonna get some water real quick. I'll be right back. It'll be very brief, so I'm not gonna do a bit. Oh god, I'm stuck in the chair. Here's David Pakman talking about the fake trial. Oh, God.
One other thing from Fox News that is just laughable. Fox Nation, which is the streaming network for Fox News, they're doing a mock trial of Hunter Biden.
Mock trial with Judge Reinhold. Mock trial with Judge Reinhold. Mock trial.
No. I didn't say Joe Biden. They're doing a mock trial of Hunter Biden. You know, they talk about impeaching Joe Biden, to which we often say, for what? For what? But if they did a mock trial of Joe Biden, at least...
Sorry, I gotta play this. It's gonna bug me if I don't.
Well, it looks like we've got a...
Joe Biden's the president, but that's not what they're doing. They are doing a mock trial for Hunter Biden. It's fiction programming, okay? Take a look at this promo.
Hunter Biden is the most protected person in the country.
What?
Money laundering, illegal foreign lobbying. You have the laptop, infamous big guy email.
The son of the vice president is doing deals funded by the Chinese government.
Yeah, if you do any business in China, the Chinese government's going to be involved. Their state-planned economy, they have market economies now, but the idea is that there's a central planning going on, at least in theory. So yeah, Donald Trump's done business in China too that also involves the Chinese government. And he was actually the president, unlike Hunter Biden.
There are so many pieces of evidence. The media has ignored it because they wanted Joe Biden elected president.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am here to defend Hunter Biden.
What?
That's fucking pathetic. I'm glad that all their time wasting... I'm glad all the time they took to shit on Hunter and Joe Biden was basically a waste now. That's good. It was a waste originally, too, but now I hope they feel that waste, you know?
Good, that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just one last point and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote. Senator J.D. Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this.
Okay, but she just told you he said it, and he did, so respond to that.
Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country.
What is he? What? Let me just completely switch to a different topic, because this is devastating for me. Moira Soma says, I find it so infuriating that these pro-natalists tell people who don't have kids that we're selfish sociopaths who shouldn't have a vote because we don't have a stake in the future when they want to take away all policies to protect the environment. They don't even care about their own kids. They just want that sweet money.
Many from prisons and many
Gotta have cheap labor for the rich people to exploit in the future.
from
What, are they gonna pay higher wages because they have fewer options?
mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came in.
What are you talking about, Donald? It's time to take your meds. Celis, thanks for 38 months.
To our country illegally,
People
and
who
they're
are only
taking the
American
vote away
citizens
from
are
all
allowed
of the
to vote,
people in
sir.
this room that have been here a long time, that have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happening. If I am, you're not going to have any problems.
Ben Kagami says, here's an interview with Fred Trump, Donald's nephew, talking about what Donald Trump said to him when Fred was advocating aid for disabled people. Oh, boy.
In 1999, your son William was
I feel like the View's gonna get mad if I play this.
born with a rare, his care taken your inheritance. Say he made it.
Recall this moment, but yes, the fund, which was only necessary because my inheritance was taken away from me and Mary.
Because of him.
Because of Donald hatched the plan.
Yeah, and their sibling.
And he was my trustee. Again, I called him to say, Donald, the fund is running low. And without skipping a beat, he said, your son doesn't recognize you. Let him die and move down to Florida. Now, I can't explain how anybody could say that about another human being, least.
Jesus Christ. I'm not surprised. That's still sick shit. H. Baird says, people who watch Fox News all the time have been mentally conditioned to have a visceral reaction to certain code phrases, stuff about the border being some of them. This works as a thought-stopping cliche for these people, but it's weird to people who haven't been programmed,
Problem, but you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that. So let's talk about J.D. Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him. Why did you choose J.D. Vance?
Why
did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing too.
I
I know
chose him
everybody out there can, but it's hard
I'll tell
to
you
hear.
why. I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman, and especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room. But you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit.
Meemaw got laid off from the asbestos factory by J.D. Vance. Heard that somewhere. Don't know where.
He's a very smart guy without the benefit of having a family that has contacts, like a father that was well connected.
Remember when J.D. Vance called Trump America's Hitler? Full of strong convictions, that J.D. Vance.
He got into Yale.
Strongest one to make money and try and gain a name on the national stage.
Law school. He graduated in 2
Shillbilly. That's a good one.
years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with a difficult family situation, very difficult with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the Law Journal.
Okay, what about all his stupid opinions? Amber says, one of my hottest takes is that immigrants should get voting rights. They live and work here and are subject to our laws. If we believe in freedom and justice, we must believe that everyone affected by our government should have a say in it. A visa should come with voting rights. Philosophically, I believe undocumented people deserve a say too, but that's much more difficult to work out logistically. I know that it might get some hate, but I stand by it. I mean, you're allowed to, that's cool. You're in a very lefty space. It's fine to have a position that's lefty even by leftist standards. That's fine. Thanks for voicing it. Moira Soma says, you didn't pay your workers, Donald. That's why New Yorkers hate you. And Fennikagami says, strong conviction to be Peter Thiel's little bitch.
thing.
PayPal really was devastating in terms of creating monsters of capitalism, huh? Peter Thiel and Elon Musk came out of the PayPal thing. Kagami says, strong conviction to be... Oh, I read that. Tea Time Tea says, to quote Andy Bashar, J.D. Vance is a man with no conviction, but Trump has 34.
He's a 4-year. He was in the military with great distinction for 4 years. Got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually. Did public offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family. But he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States Senator. So he's a United States Senator. And so, Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days
sorry.
after that...
I cannot understand. Your microphone
I know,
is so
it is really hard for me to understand
it's just,
you too.
I can understand you perfectly.
Because she's closer.
I can understand you.
Happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
really
understand, Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
Are
you asking a question?
what you're saying.
So what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke...
She's clearly being picked up by the loudspeakers that are playing. I don't understand how he can't hear her, because even if he can't hear her on stage, she is mic'd up, and we're hearing her, which means it is getting picked up by the sound system in the auditorium and being projected by the speakers in there. So why can't he hear her from that? I don't know.
You said some words that were prophetic.
In fairness, he is also very old, so maybe he has hearing problems. I don't know.
Because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring. You choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words.
Oh, that's fair. They might have in-ear monitors and they could be doing a bad mix to him. But I think they would have fixed it by this point, because that's not like a crazy problem that's unheard of, and it's not like the sound, unless the sound people are just fucking with him, but I don't think they are.
2.5 hours before.
Because then they would be doing it for all of them and not just the one lady.
An attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at J.D. Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact.
She just asked, hey, if you get shot in the face, but like more proficiently next time, can J.D. Vance effectively take over as the executive of the country and the commander-in-chief? And he's like, honestly, vice presidents, like, they don't matter to voting, so like, whatever. Completely sidesteps the question, and also implies he really, really doesn't think J.D. Vance would make a good president, which is kind of the main qualification for being the vice president, is are you capable of taking over if the president dies? Also, overseeing the Senate, but, that's a day job. Does Donald Trump know the vice president actually, has stuff to do? Does he know it's a job that you're supposed to actually do, and it's not just like a PR position of some kind? Amber Pretzel says, this is your reminder to vote.
You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then...
Kamala. Oh, no, you're talking about the VP, sorry.
That dies down.
Benekagami says, or he's lying. His team could be telling him to say he can't hear them, knowing it'll give him a built-in excuse for his inevitable weirdo answer. I guess?
And it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, we're about halfway through the stream, so it's probably a good time to do calls for action. If you're on YouTube, give the stream a like. Memberships and subscriptions, memberships and all that are always helpful to the stream. On Twitch, bits and subscriptions, always helpful. All right, continuing.
Johnson mattered for different reasons of what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president and you...
Okay, but you're like 80 and eat McDonald's all the time and are really angry and clearly have high blood pressure. So you could die at any moment. Just saying, your vice presidential pick is pretty important.
You can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been. But you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in.
JD Vance?
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, well, I mean, my point is here.
It was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what J.D. Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the death, they're allowing freedom, the death of a baby after the baby is born based on...
Literally not true. That's not how any of this works. Anyone claiming post-birth abortions is just genuinely someone who's been brainwashed and has never fact-checked something in their entire life. That's not a thing.
Sir, that
governor
is
of
illegal
Virginia,
in every state in the country.
based on the governor of Virginia, they're allowing the death of the baby after it's born. They're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats have denied.
I think they're right.
If someone's getting an abortion in the 8th or 9th month, it's because they're gonna die otherwise. And if they're taking out the fetus at that point, if it's dying, it's because it's not, like, able to sustain itself, and there's probably something severely wrong, right? Because at that point, sure, they'd be a preemie, but generally in, like, the 9th month, you'd be able to do some sort of cesarean section and take the baby out, right? And then it could go into, like, the NICU. But in cases of this in, like, the 8th and 9th month, because there's some sort of severe medical issue that will kill the parent and the fetus. So yeah, that's a thing that happens, but not willy-nilly. People don't generally, if they don't want kids, want to hang out and be pregnant for 8 or 9 months for no reason. Destroys your fucking body.
And I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps, but the Republican Party, what we're doing is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it. Democrats, Republicans.
That's such horseshit.
Liberals, conservative, everybody wanted.
Who told him that? Because I've heard him say that line before. Who told him that and he latched onto that lie? It's so weird.
Abortion.
The Langren says, this interview has been massive in left progressive media because it was such a shit show for Trump, but I'm curious as a non-American, is this forum widely viewed in the US? This is being covered on all sorts of news networks. So, like, this isn't something that people necessarily, like, watch in and of itself, but this has been picked up by all sorts of news outlets because of what a shit show it was.
Brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it. Everybody
But the
wanted
majority
it
of
back.
Americans oppose Roe v. Wade being overturned.
They
Multiple
don't know
polls have
about
showed that,
this.
sir.
Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do.
Which is in the 8th or 9th month. What's happening if an abortion happens? It's about the life of the parent.
Also, but if you take a look, right now they're doing, it's an amazing thing, out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say, Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit surprising to a lot of people. But the people are now voting, and it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on. And
hey, maybe we shouldn't be voting on whether or not people deserve basic bodily rights. Cool beans.
Voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting. And it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. H.
Baird says, for conservatives, the word abortion means elective abortion as a means of birth control. The concept of medical issues that might lead to a pregnancy being terminated literally doesn't exist in their universe. A lot of people believe the R word can't lead to pregnancy. That's why they act this way. And it's disgusting.
To believe in the three exceptions. Most people believe in the three exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions.
I don't even give a shit about the, I give a shit about the exceptions, but that's such a non-answer. People should be able to get abortions for whatever fucking reason they want. It's not my business to be in other people's medical affairs. It's not my job to start playing fucking games with other people's bodies. Ugh.
But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody agrees to that. And they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside, and then we decide what to do. Meaning, what do? We execute the baby. That's a
Revolver Ossethot, thanks for 26 months.
Radical, horrible
wow, he just
position.
makes shit up.
And some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question about, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man.
Kagami says, on men and pick-me women can buy this 9-month abortion. No pregnant person who's ever gone to term can fathom a person that's capable of suddenly deciding for no reason to terminate their pregnancy at the 9th month. Yeah, it's just nonsense.
See you golfing all the time, but if you win, you'll still be president at 82, which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you consider?
Most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders.
Okay, maybe one of them can be president. You're not doing great, though, like demonstrably.
Look at throughout the world history, the greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question.
Like whom?
Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know, says the least self-aware person on the planet.
I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated
Oh my goodness.
me, and I'm fine with it because
I'm fine with it, clearly.
Says that she was
baby bitch boy.
Very rude, sir. Very rude. That was a nasty. That wasn't a question. She
Sir,
didn't ask
you
me
can
a
answer the
question.
question.
She gave a statement. That wasn't a question.
I repeated
you
your
can answer
statement,
the
sir,
question.
actually.
You said you would. You would
Oh,
make that
absolutely.
decision
If
to
I
step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be sharp. I'll go a step further. I want.
It sounded like he said, sir. I assume he misspoke.
Anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea. And I took 2 of them and I aced them.
Well, can I just
These cognitive tests were tests for dementia. I'm sure you've seen this, but they're like tests that are like comical. They're basically tests for people with severe mental decline. So if you fail them, you're fucked. The fact that he thinks it's impressive he passed these is telling.
I took 2 of them, but let me ask.
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president, and I don't mean because they're 75 or 85. I think anybody running, I'd like to do it.
Jaden says, she's so rude. So rude. In fact, why can't I do the Trump voice anymore? She's so rude. So rude. In fact, that she made me poo-poo my diaper. So full, you wouldn't believe it. So rude.
People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation, we have the millions of people fall.
If he and Kamala want to agree to volunteer to a test, that would be hilarious because Trump would do very badly.
In. We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. What he has done to
your administration is the one that orchestrated the pullout. Your administration literally met with Al-Qaeda prior to the pullout and made arrangements. There are literally pictures of it.
To our country, and her too. What they've done to our country, she has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
and
do
make
it
it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to...
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
Mr. President,
are you saying she wouldn't pass? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
To be clear, you don't think
I'm
Harris?
just
How do you
giving the
intend
facts. She
and
didn't
look,
pass her bar exam, and
She was a district attorney. She definitely passed it. Did she have to take it multiple times? Is he referring to that? Because that's not uncommon. She clearly passed because she became a district attorney, for which you need to have a law license.
She's gonna have to pass it, and I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it.
80% of people failed their first time. No, it's a hard test.
She did pass it.
There's a man over here, I think he must work for
Mr.
her.
President, I would love to ask you about January.
Skifazoa says, unfun fact of the day, Trump was known to walk into the dressing room of his pageants that had teens as young as 15 in various states of undress. Yeah, he's a pedophile. Yep.
January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order. Yeah. When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said...
Amber Pretzel says, remember, this man has a cult behind him. This is who they want to not just be in charge of America, but super president of the world. This is the person who was in charge for 4 years and wants to be in charge again. This is why we need a hard set upper limit on who's in charge, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol. Horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these...
I'm sorry, you're comparing people assaulting and trying to overthrow an election to people using spray paint? Jesus Christ.
Magnificent limes.
Republicans really care more about property than human beings, and it's not even funny how blatant they are about it at this point. They don't even pretend. They're just like, yep, I care more about property than I do human lives.
Stone and granite with red paint, red spray paint, that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you'll see it in 100 years from now.
Oh my God.
They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than...
MH Darkbeast with 50 bits says, hey Hannah, Steve Shives mentioned mentioned this movie Wild in the Streets in his video about JD Vance. Shame we can't watch the trailer, but I did post it in the movie section. They basically lower the voting age to 14 and they elect a rock star as president, who makes mandatory retirement 30, and by 35 they need to relocate to camps where you're re-educated on LSD. It also has a hell of a twist ending. That sounds bizarre.
I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to
my
the people that tried to burn
My question is on those rioters who assaulted
Excuse
officers.
Me. You have to
Would
ask,
you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen?
Excuse me, I'm trying to pivot and avoid your question. You have to let me do that. Fox News lets me do it. Why don't you let me do it?
Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system. They were. How come the people that tried to burn down?
Oh my God.
Minneapolis. How come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle?
It was like 2 blocks. a large percentage of Seattle. He's such a dumbass.
How come nothing happened to them? How come the
But
people
sir, we're
that,
talking about
how
people
come
that
the
were
people-
seen
no, no,
beating
no.
officers
We're talking
with
about federal
flagpoles,
buildings.
dragging them down the stairs. They're on
They
video.
try-
Have you seen that
Really?
video,
Oh,
sir?
really? Well, they
you would
shot-
pardon those? You would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face.
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt. Maybe she shouldn't have been going towards members of the fucking Senate crawling through a broken window as Secret Service told her to stop. By the way, Ashley Babbitt's mother is upset about this interview because he didn't say Ashley Babbitt's name, and she's super salty, and the people outside the jail at January 6th are super salty. I believe the woman on the right is Ashley Babbitt's mother, and she's in support of this person on the left.
President Trump did speak today in Chicago. You want to talk about that?
I don't.
I do. I really... there's a couple of, I have two minds of several things about that, but I'm not going to go into it here. But what I will go into it is that President Trump may not say Ashley Babbitt's name. She may be that lady that got shot in the face to him. But to us out here in the corner, her name's Ashley Babbitt, and we're going to say it every night.
That's right.
And he needs to remember her name. So, I appreciate him talking about any of it today, and he very much came to the defense of his country.
Yeah. He literally doesn't give a shit about any of you, even enough to remember a dead woman's name, and you're still sucking his old, dry balls.
The January 6th defendants and Ashley, because he just could not believe. And he did get very frustrated because they would not let him talk. They kept talking over him.
Cult of Cautious Optimism with 24 months says, it's concerning it seems like Trump and a large portion of his cult genuinely don't understand being multicultural, like they're so racist they cannot fathom it. It's wild.
And he was speaking in Chicago at a African American journalist conference. And he was supposed to speak for an hour. I believe he only spoke for 35 minutes.
Yeah, because he's a little bitch baby.
Who was protesting, they shot her in the face. Nobody died that day. You do know that. But people...
She got shot in the face, Donald. So she died, and an officer had a stroke due to complications from this. She also mentioned other people who were hurt, bones broken, backs fucked up. They were assaulted by a bunch of MAGA freaks.
People died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in Minneapolis. People died in Minneapolis. And nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people.
Republicans are constantly talking about that shit to deflect from their own bullshit. What are you talking about?
But you went after the J6 people with a vengeance, and I'll tell you what.
Yeah, when you try and overthrow the government, people aren't very, thrilled about it.
What about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look, nothing is perfect in life, but you have people from Minneapolis, you have people just from 5 days ago in Washington, D.C. They were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying. They were
For AP, 8 and 10 Democrats satisfied with Harris as the presidential nominee. The 2 and 10 can go fuck themselves.
Desecrating.
Barely breathing. Thanks for a 3-stream streak.
Our monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them. And you can't have two systems of justice. That's why they went after me.
He said that to a crowd of black reporters.
A political opponent, because they felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that, and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before, and it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
Stop breaking the law, asshole.
What do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do? I close the border, and I do two.
I'm gonna switch the border sign from open to closed. We did it. We stopped undocumented immigration and asylum seekers. Which, you know, maybe you should be cool helping people, you fucking prick.
Two things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming in. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. We want
Legal,
people. I want
yeah.
people to come into our country, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring interest rates down.
I bring energy way down. I know he means the cost of energy, but that's not what he said.
I bring inflation way down so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy...
How? How would you do any of these things? Do you think there's a button in the Oval Office that says, price go down? Barely breathing. Thanks for a 3-stream streak. Fennikagami says, fun fact, it is unconstitutional to pardon an innocent person because part of the pardon process is acknowledgement of a crime. If Trump pardoned people if they're innocent, it would be a crime, or it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's true. I've heard people say that, but I've also seen lawyers say that's not true. I don't know.
Buy a ham sandwich again so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now, people can't buy food. Your grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%, right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Mr. President, I think we are.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. But I'm against everybody having an electric car, okay? I'm very much...
Why? Why would you care?
Against that. You have to be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car, but, you know,
I don't think he pulled his endorsement. I think he basically just said he wasn't going to give him money like he said he was going to, because he was saying he was going to give him like tens of millions of dollars a month, and he pulled out from that.
More liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country. I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs, and I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
Project 2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump.
They're pulling him because he sucks.
For coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much. Great honor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
They really should have said, they're telling us he's wimping out, so he's gonna go.
Thank you.
NABJ will email about...
So funny. So that's the interview. It went terribly, really hilarious, to be honest, so... yeah, what a bummer. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to cover before we call it a day. A little bit shorter today, but I wasn't really planning on streaming anyway, so we'll call it a bonus. We'll call it a bonus. Yeah, I think we're probably... Amber Pretzel says, anyone need an aspirin? Always. So thanks everyone for hanging out. A little bit shorter stream today again. Wasn't really planning on streaming, but I had to cover that Trump stuff because that interview was just wild and made him look so foolish. So, I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what we'll be doing. Maybe VHS, just because, you know, something fun, something light. It's early in the month. If you're watching on Twitch and you haven't followed yet, give me a follow. I do fun stuff all the time. Talk about politics, debunk conspiracies. It's always a lot of fun. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, same deal.
Fixed, but like...
Or are we gonna raid? Love you, Mr. Blast. I'll see the rest of you soon. I'm gonna go watch Deadpool and Wolverine tonight, so no one spoil it. Alright, bye everyone! Once this raid happens. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I'm gonna take it. It's stuck in my head. Alright, bye everyone. Have a good night.